Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Hello, everyone. I'm starting this episode by letting you know this room I'm in. So I usually don't record in this room because it's a mess. But I was late because I was at the diner and I thought we were recording at 3:30, but we were recording at 3. So now I'm in, was the kids' room. It's now the, oh my God, I have to fucking pack and go away room / Peloton room. You know, there's a lot going on in this room. It's not a room I share. But today, because we have the one and only Jared Freid on, I'm feeling free. I'm feeling free with Jared Freid. Welcome, Jared!
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Oh my God, Jared, I love you. Okay, so I'm sure you've never listened to my podcast because all you do is create content. So
I never stop.
I do a deep dive, but it's very hard to do a deep dive with you. I don't know. There's not a lot of growing up information about you.
Well, you know everything about me without ever having really talked to me about it.
I know.
That's the thing.
I know
you know the deal.
I know the deal. First of all, let's just start with the stupid spelling of your last name. It should be Fried, but it's F-R-E-I.
That's fried. It's like an aunt situation. I'm sure my we're not very smart, like book smart. So like, I'm sure we screwed that up at some point. Like because it's I before E except after C.
Yeah.
I know. Listen, I love the bell. I'm like such a huge fan of the bell element of this show. It makes sense. It's perfect.
It's all
an
Jewy.
Exclamation point.
Anything
it's very
that's Jewy. Okay.
Like I feel like I'm at a deli. Number 9.
Yes.
But my family is like, we're like salesman Jews. Like we're not smart.
I know. Yeah. You're definite, but you're like street savvy Jews.
Yes, we're not Dr. Jew. There's Dr. Jew, there's social worker Jew, and then there's like, street, salesy Jew. And
okay, this is what I'm gonna let's break down the Jews. Okay, sure. we have the doctor, lawyer, Jew,
smarty Jew, yeah.
Then there's also, this is the other kind of Jew that I find annoying.
Okay.
They're
all annoying,
right? I'm a doctor, but I'm also a concert pianist. Like I fucking hate those people.
I do it all.
Right.
I'm not going to make you feel bad.
It's not even like it's like I could have been but I'm also a doctor. I'm a doctor, concert pianist.
Yes.
And statistician. Okay. Then there's the, social worker, communist-y, tikkun olam, but to the nth degree of.
Yes.
Okay. So there's that bleeding heart.
Like so liberal it hurts Jew.
Right. And just, and just like, right, annoying.
Like a lot of knit hats, scarvy, that kind of look.
Right. Like a little frumpy. We're going to get in so much trouble, but I don't care. Okay. Then you also have the really ultra religious, obsessive compulsive, like everything is about the community. What do you mean? He had a piece of ham. Oh,
yeah.
Oh my God! Did you hear everyone? Like and in everyone's business.
That's Jew. Yeah.
Right. Jewy Jew. They own a Judaica shop, or they just study Jew shit, and it's all about being a Jew.
Sure.
Okay. Then there's the sort of blue-collary Jew who owns a deli or like I know a Jew whose father was a truck driver, like just like.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
JCC Jew. You see them at the JCC a lot.
Well, also, yeah, because they're not in the country clubs, but they're
playing basketball at the J.
But they're also like, they have a trade. You know what I mean? They have there's electrician or like jeweler or
technical school Jew.
Right. Yeah. But the best one at it, because they have the Jew in them, so it's one step up from the tech. All right.
Yeah, they're meticulous.
And then there are the really street savvy business Jews, right?
That's
real
where
estate.
I am.
Yeah, you're in the real estate. The emotionally intelligent, know where to push how to push people's buttons to get what you want. Like really,
it's a business you didn't know even existed before.
Right.
Like, we make the zippers that go on the jeans. Right.
I invented, I don't know, the cup that keeps the fucking coffee hot for 4 days.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the one that created the strip on the credit card. You always hear about that person. I get a dime every time you swipe your credit card, and you're like, oh my god.
Now there's Apple Pay. You fucking son of a bitch.
You're out.
Okay. So you grew up in Needham, Massachusetts.
Needham,
which is a suburb of the Boston.
It's true.
How far away is it from Boston? It's not that far.
It's like 20 minutes.
And did you go to Boston a lot when you were growing up?
No. So Boston's very town heavy. Like you're in the town.
Like I grew up in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother grew up in Manhattan. So we used to come to the city a lot. But there were people where I lived, which was like 26, 27 miles away from New York City.
Yeah.
Who were like, I don't go to the city. I would never go to the city. Yeah.
That's more like Boston people generally.
Right.
Like the connection between New York City and the outer suburbs is way more connected than growing up outside of Boston. Like, even I went to Needham High. Like it's very idyllic, very like, it's very
suburban.
Leave It to Beaver, like, and you're trapped in this town. Like, there was a train station that went out to the city, but I have no relation to that. Like, when you go out, everything was in every party in high school was in a basement.
Right. It's so funny because did you go to sleepaway camp?
Of course.
Okay. Part of the Jewish religion.
Yeah.
My sons, Henry and Ben, went to sleepaway camp, and it was so funny because over the winter time, during Christmas break or holiday break, whatever,
sure.
Their camp friends would be like, oh, come down to Cherry Hill and, spend the weekend and we could all hang because they all lived in the same area. And my sons would go down, especially Ben, and he would go down there and grew up in Manhattan on the Upper West Side. And he would be like, Mommy, all they do is sit in the basement and play video games and then go to another person's house and do the same thing. Like he was floored.
Yeah, that's all we did.
Yeah.
Well, your kids grew up with get a taxi. Like you had access.
Subway, bus, go to the museum, go to Central Park, go to Riverside Park, go play a pickup game of whatever.
Going to a movie growing up was like you were planning a trip to Hawaii.
Right.
Like that was the hardest. There was no movie theater in my town. You'd have to get to Dedham. And who's going to drive you? Who's going to pick you up? Who's going? How you going to, it was such a, the idea that your kids never had that. Like, oh, you're going to the movie. We're going to the movie. Like that doesn't exist. Didn't exist for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, a parent would drop them off and then a parent would walk down the street and pick them up, whatever, depending on how old they were. But yeah, it's so funny the way you grew up because I kind of grew up that way, but many years prior. And it really is this sort of it's like your world is so small.
Totally. It's like a bubble and you think you're the only one in the world having these experiences.
Right.
It's like kind of the bad part about the internet is realizing how alike you are to everyone else.
Right. That
it's
you're
like
not
the
special.
depressing part. You're not special. They're doing this. And then I remember meeting, like I went on a teen tour when I was 16.
You did? And you went on which one? B'nai B'rith or the
No, I did like the non-Jewish one, the like Musicer.
What?
Like, is that the one I went on, like a West Coast? My dad was like obsessed with his teen tour growing up. He went on one too. So like he was like, oh, you gotta do it. So I remember going on it, and everyone on the tour was from Long Island. I'd never even heard of Long Island before. I didn't even know what that was. Like I felt like an idiot. I was like, what's that? And then you meet these people. You're like, oh, you're another breed of human being. Like, yeah, like I was like, this is a different type of Jew to me as we're going through the phylums. And then you realize like, oh, you went to camp. And then like you talk about sleepaway camp. Then you say, they go, yeah, we went to sleepaway camp in Pennsylvania. You go, wait a minute, there's camps in Pennsylvania? Like my world was just that they only existed in Maine. Right. But there was like this other alternate universe Jew having the same life as me, but different, like a bizarro life, Even
on the West Coast, it's the same
Even the West Coast. Michigan, they go up to Wisconsin for camp, or they go to the Upper Peninsula. Like if you're a Jew from there, you go, and it's just so weird how alike it is. And it's like I said to you at the beginning, like, everything about my life without ever asking me a question. Right. Because like when I met you and Jessica Curson, like, at comedy clubs, I go, I know these people. Like like I'd see you on stage and I'd be like, I know everything. I know the family. I know the whole thing.
I always say like, it's so hard to, I have children and it's hard to explain to them, we're different. We are different. Like, and I remember when my father died, he died when I was 27 and I was on the road. I would go on the road and I would say, I would go every week and find a synagogue wherever I was to say, mourner's Kaddish, Jew. And I would walk in. Here I am, like I'm doing like 2 shows Friday, 3 shows Saturday. And then in Saturday morning, I'm putting on a skirt.
Sure.
And, and I would sit around and they would all, because it's all these small, if you find a synagogue in a smaller town, it's like, they're all like, who's that? Who's someone sitting?
Who's walking in? Yeah. You're a new character in the sitcom. You're doing an arc.
Was that? And so, but it was interesting because I would sit there and go, I know what's in every one of these people's refrigerators. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can go to their house and they have the
sugar-free Crystal Light. They're sitting there.
There's cream cheese. There's a jar of herring. And it's so hard to explain to your kids. And Ben tried out for the Maccabee Games. The Israeli Olympics, which he will be doing in 2022.
Congratulations!
And thank you. And he was with one of his friends, Jake, and Jake went to boarding school. Ben went to boarding school for a couple years, but Jake went 4 years. And he's from Long Island, but he was like, it's so weird. Everyone gets my jokes and everyone is sarcastic and everyone's thinking the same thing. And his father was like, see, Jake, I told you, and it's like.
I can imagine that dad. I know Jake's dad.
Come on, Jake, this is what I've been trying to tell you, and it's so hard to explain to people because you don't want to sound, you don't want to sound like, like when people are like, oh, you're the chosen, blah, blah. But
you don't want to sound like,
But we are different.
It's a vibe. It's, I got approached today. I'm not trying to plug them, but there's a new dating app that's being created where they're skirting around this issue that we're talking about right now. So they're trying to do a J date situation. They call it, I'll say the name of the app is called Locks Club. And Locks Club they're trying to be Raya for Jews. So they're trying to say you can apply to be on Locks Club and we want a upper echelon person. And and you roll your eyes because I roll my eyes at it too. I go, I know what you're doing. They can't. I go, you want someone from Newton, Needham, Five Towns, Westchester, Cherry Hill, Boca. You want Short Hills. And I go, you are doing an app for rich Jews. I go, but you can't say that because in this world, how bad does that sound? And I said, that's your biggest issue is you can't even market it the way that you need to market it. Right. Because you want people who went to summer camp, people who know these things, know the joke.
Right. It's the group of Jews we were talking about that aren't the social workery, that are, you know,
and it's offensive. It's somewhat offensive. And I said to them, I go, you got to make fun of that. But because I roll my eyes at your app because who the hell is deciding who gets on this thing and not? Like, at least with Raya, that's considered the famous Tinder. You have to have a following. So
and they have the Ivy League one too, right?
The league. So like that makes sense. You can kind of, I said to them, because they were asking me about it, because I talk about dating all the time. I was like, you have an icky problem. I go, there are people who do want to meet those people, but they don't want to have to say it.
Right.
You know, like they can't put words on it that aren't icky and a little bit douchey.
Right. And sometimes you meet people who one's from one socioeconomic background and the others, and they click. They click.
Yeah, it happens. That's not to say it doesn't, but there's people actively looking for certain things. And it doesn't have to do with money, but it does. You know, you can't
It's exactly
ignore it.
Right. Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
You have a brother.
Younger brother.
What's his name?
Harry.
Oh, I love that. Who's he named after?
My mom's grandfather.
What was his name?
Harry.
It was? Oh, because my father's name was Harold.
Oh, Harold. Yeah, Harry. He was Harry. There's a story my grandmother used to tell about, like, my mom was told that she gets like some sort of jewelry if she names a kid after.
Oh my God. Are you kidding?
So of course she named him Harry. And then my mom goes, Bubby, I named him Harry after, Harry, after your husband. Right. And my Bubby goes, Harry, what's this? His name was Yitzchak. Like she fucked up. And so she didn't get, she did this all for the jewelry. It didn't even work out.
That's so fucking hilarious. Now your father, did your father grew up in Newton? Is that correct?
My dad's from Newton. How did you find this information? Is it all out there?
I do some research. And where's your mother from? I couldn't find that out.
Michigan. She's from Detroit, Southfield. So like
Southfield. I was going to say Southfield.
That's a town.
And they have, let me tell you something else. They have a Holocaust museum there.
There's a lot of Jewish stuff there. I like my grandfather was like president of the temple there. That like he was like that type of guy.
I just got to get some Jew bells out right now.
There's a lot of Jew bell here. Yeah.
All right. So, and what are your parents' names? Because that I couldn't find anywhere.
Kim and Jerry.
Kim is not a Jewish name.
She's only Kim, not even a Kimberly. She's just Kim.
What is that? Does she have a middle name?
I don't know. Yeah, she's got a middle name, Lori.
Kim
What
Lori?
if I fucked up her? It's a weird. Now that I think about it, it's a weird name. Yeah.
I know. I'm telling you right now, it's not Jewish. Kim Lori.
Do you want her social security number? No.
Shut up. And what did they do for a living, or do they do? Because they're young.
So my dad was in family businesses his whole life, where again, salesman Jews. It was wholesale liquor, beer, wine.
Yes, I had an uncle like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that ended, and then it became nursing homes. And he worked.
That's another Jewy thing. Yeah. Very
Jewy. And then after that, he was just kind of done and dabbled a little bit in the medical marijuana world. Another thing, and then. Now he's just there kind of just and my mom, housewife, but also like my mom was like a personal shopper, early on and like worked at Bloomingdale's, that type of thing. And then like, in and out of helping people with their stores and clothing stuff. But now they're in Boca. Yeah, they're like at summer camp. I never knew that they would be that way. They're that way.
Now, did they go to college?
They dabbled. I think my mom did a couple years at BU. My dad did maybe a year at BU.
Right.
Or my mom went to an all-girls school. They met at a bar in Chestnut Hill. So like, they.
How old were they?
25, maybe.
Oh, that's good.
Married they had me at 27, I think. Yeah.
Okay. What's interesting about your parents, they're not overly educated. They're successful. Your father grew up in Newton, which is like Jewville of Jews.
Yeah, Jewton.
And they are, I mean, if people follow you on Insta or TikTok, whatever the fuck, they're like 90-year-old Jewish people.
They are so out of control.
Party of two.
I can't explain them because it sounds like I'm like lifting Seinfeld. Like it sounds like I'm like making this up, or I'm thinking like I sometimes talk about my parents on stage. I don't want to sound like everyone after the show, you should see our family. I don't want to be that person because
do you know, I spent how many years? 20, 30, 25 years talking about my mother on stage. And everyone, your mother is just like, oh my God, we have the same mother. I'm like, oh my God, no, we don't.
I know. And I started now talking about my mom on stage a lot, and I get the same thing. And now I get like, that's my mom.
They all want to talk to you.
They all want to talk about it.
They'll be like, tell your mother that I said. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like the shit people say to comedians after shows. And you're like, I just want to get out. I just want to go eat dinner. Like, I don't want to have to talk to you.
Meet my cousin. Meet my aunt. She's just like.
You single?
Yeah, you single. That's a big thing. And you single. You got to meet her. And I'm like, okay, you're not going to show me one fucking picture,
Right.
It's like my mom, if anyone has ever met her, like growing up, it was like, oh, you're Kim's son. Like people.
Right.
Like knew she's a character.
She had her own
thing. Like she is, and my dad's more reserved and kind of laid back, but them together, like it's screaming, it's yelling. It goes from quiet to screaming in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like a storm just erupted.
And it's so funny because I don't think non-Jews realize they're not mad at each other.
No.
It's like, what are you, idiot? What are you, a stupid? And that's just like, for a wasp, that's like, I think that's incorrect. That is exactly, you know what I mean? Actually,
totally.
I'm not sure that is the correct, and it's like, what are you, a fucking idiot?
Yeah. I mean, there's a video up of them fighting over the garage.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just so, and again, my grandmother and my grandfather were the same way,
right?
Like the way they yelled. Like I remember one time we were in Florida, and my grandparents like every year new house, new development. There's always a new house. So we're at this house, and my grandfather a gecko walks through the house like a little lizard. My grandfather picks it up right away, throws it in the disposal, turns it up. My grandmother, I've never seen someone yell at someone like she yelled at him. Like it was like, and we never stopped talking about it. Just, it was like I don't know what came over him to do it, but she went wild. She was how could you, I'm never using the sink again. Right. Like, it becomes like
everything is so dramatic. So you sort of you describe your I've heard you describe your childhood, that you grew up during a economic boom, right?
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, that's true.
Which is really interesting because you sort of grew up during such a prosperous time. There wasn't social media.
No.
But you did have like video games and shit like that, right? Because like when I grew up, I mean, when Pong came out, when I was 18 years old, it was like, oh my God. It was like just a fucking thing going across the screen. It was ridiculous. But you grew up during this period of time that I don't think we will ever experience again.
And also that even saying that is a very different thing. You see people my age that are disillusioned, with what's going on, because my generation is going to be the first one to do financially worse than their parents on whatever average and numbers, whatever. But it's like, so you see people like, oh, you grew up, and again, it goes back to, you grew up in a small town. Nobody had a childhood like you, but then then the internet comes, you go, oh, everyone's doing this. It's it is, so, you
but
wonder,
there was, I grew up in what some would think, but there were things going on, like the Vietnam War. I remember watching TV, and I was young, but I remember watching them come home. I remember, Roe v. Wade. I remember when people started using the term Ms., M-S, instead of Mrs. And what a big fucking deal it was. This was like a sign of liberation. It feels like you're in the 90s. Everyone's wealthy. It wasn't great for the gays, but, it was getting better. Clinton was the first president ever to say the word gay, which was, for us was like, oh my God, he said we exist. And I feel like you're a millennial and there's such a prejudice against millennials.
Yeah.
And I wonder, before we go back to your childhood, I wonder, is it because you grew up in an entitled time and you didn't have a lot, you weren't, what issues, were going on in the world that you weren't scared, right?
No, never. It's interesting. I think about it a lot just because I'm like, I do think millennials get kind of, bogged down on a little bit. And because everyone's like, oh, you guys got trophies. You get trophies, participation trophies. That became a big thing. It's like, yeah, but who bought them for us? We weren't going to the trophy store. This was all of us together.
We did that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have that. I talk about that in my act.
You talk about so it's like we all did this together. The generation is because of all the generations, not, and then I think also getting the internet and seeing that's becomes a whole new way to do business and to become a worker in this kind of whole game. And then your parents are saying to you, my parents, go show up with a resume. I hear stories about people becoming writers back in the day in comedy. And you go, I can't listen to that story. It makes me angry because they're like, yeah, I showed up to LA and I handed over a script. They said, you're on the Smothers Brothers. And I go, that's a nice story for you. And I'm and now they're sitting in a big leather chair and with all their, residuals coming in. And it's the world is changing. Timing is important. And when the world changes, you can miss things, you can get unlucky, you can get lucky, so.
It's also though, I'm a comic who started, with a note, when you auditioned for SNL, you go on at the comic strip or Catch or something, they gave you a time slot and that was it. Whatever happened before you or who went on before you or after you, that was your one shot,
Yeah.
Even auditioning for anything, it was that's it. It's live and whatever the fuck, you have no control. You got to go do your shit. And it's true. People would I'm going to write, 20 jokes for this show and I'm going to show up and hand someone that, and it's true. Or you hung out at the clubs. We had such a bond because we were all hanging out together, trying to get on stage. And I feel like I miss so much of that.
That's a lot of the reason, I wanted to do comedy. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's so cool. To be a part of something. I think that's why we get so frustrated when people take a side door into comedy. We can't really be mad at it. So The Bachelor, the most recent Bachelorette, she opened for Whitney Cummings recently. That was her first time ever on stage. She was the Bachelorette. That annoys the hell out of us, but we can't even say anything about it because we're that's the reality. We sound like the bitter asshole if we're
right, but it's right. It's like when Stormy Daniels did stand up. It's
totally.
like these people think I had to travel all over alone.
That's the thing. You gave your life to it, and these people don't give their lives to it, and you get angry. Like when you're talking about going to the temple in a town, like I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you were in Minneapolis with no phone. Like that's because now I go on the road. I'm very much connected to.
No, we were not connected. I talk about this all the time.
I can't believe
you couldn't even use the hotel phone because it was like $50 a phone. Like that would eat up your whole. I have said this numerous times. I brought one of my suitcases was a junk drawer. I had books because there was no ebooks. I would bring my clarinet. I would bring music. I would try to find a piano. A lot of the guys went and played golf or went to movies. I think about this all the time. We bonded. Like if you were that's why the bond between comics of my generation is so strong because we were isolated together, you know?
I think about it all the time because I'm doing the road now. I'm away every weekend. It is hard, but I'm like, I got my phone, I got my podcast, I can make a call at any time to someone that like, hey, I spent an hour on the phone with like my dad, you know, just chit chatting. Yeah. Like I also get DMs after shows. We loved it. We had a great time. Right. Come hang out with us. They can tell me where to go, where to eat. And it's like, I can go on Thrillist.com and search Seattle and know everywhere to eat in the town. And I can really like live it up. And it's like, I can't believe.
Well, I can't believe you think about it. That makes me so happy because I don't think people appreciate it.
Oh, I think about it all the time.
And and especially being a woman, you know, I remember renting a car. I started before I was 25, so I couldn't rent a car for a while. But then I do these college blocks. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I can't believe I drove through these fucking towns like in West Virginia with the big white cross and no phone. And I found out later, I think I've also said this on the podcast before, you know, that some of the female comics had guns, but I didn't come from that culture. And I think back, oh my God, I'm so lucky that nothing ever happened. I mean, I'm gigantic, but you know.
No, you're very lucky. I think that's another thing. Like I've opened for Michelle Wolf a lot and she does the road. Like she's going to clubs and, you know, the things that I can't, you know, then I look at like her going alone to these places, you know, it's like, at least we're friends and we can go out and get coffee. But like, you're going to like Cleveland on your own?
On your own. Oh, I went to Toledo once. I wanted to fucking kill I hated it.
I'm going there in a couple weeks.
Oh. This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and you know, sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself. You can process and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, you know, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it and you sit there and you wait. And then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to BetterHelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is Gratitude Month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Judy Gold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Judy Gold. You're welcome. When you grew up, right, in this prosperous time, you went to school. It was just, were you popular? Were you like, was it just?
Yeah, I played sports. I had friends. I'm not like,
you're not
I'm definitely
the typical
the loser comic. I'm not mad at the world. I had a great childhood, fun friends that I still keep in contact with. Like, I loved going to Needham High. Like, I loved the rah-rah nature of Thanksgiving Day football game. Yeah. Like, I love that stuff.
Did you ever feel like an outsider?
Of course. I think everyone does. I think everyone, Needham, first of all, like you just always feel like an outsider, no matter what. I don't think anyone.
Oh, there's people who don't feel like outsiders.
You think so? I don't know. Like Needham wasn't a Jewish town. Now it is, apparently. Like before, when I grew up there were two areas of Jews in the town. And my neighborhood was called Hanukkah Heights. And, there was, and, Needham was like an Irish Catholic town that was getting, as you say, boon economy. Now people buy houses in Needham for $1 million, knock down the house, make a $6 million house. Like that's what Needham is now. Like when I was there, it's like the beginning of that stuff. Like my neighborhood was a newer neighborhood, and then it was not a newer neighborhood. Right. It's like, it's a growing town. And like, Newton to me was like where the Jews lived. And we kind of like, so like, it's weird to talk about now because now I go home. I did shows in Boston. Someone brought their boyfriend. The boyfriend's like, "You're from Needham? Whoa, bougie." And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is now. Yeah. And not to say it wasn't nice before, but it wasn't Wellesley. To me, Wellesley was like, whoa, that's a nice town. Needham's like, fine. So it's weird how you see the world differently. Again, it's small town stuff where like, I was like, I went to high school. I had good friends. I played football. I probably thought I was better at sports than I actually was. I went to Jewish camp. So I think, look I'm good against these guys. So I must be a good athlete. Then you find out you're not. And then I went to Penn State, Big Ten school, and then you go there and, I was just kind of doing the thing I was always told to do. I think a lot of people my age, like go to college, no matter what. And if you go to college, just check off the box, just don't, and I think there's a lot of people out there that like, they did that and they incurred a lot of debt and they're going, what was this all for? There wasn't a job waiting for me that I thought everything isn't fine because I just went to college. I had to do a secondary degree,
It's funny because Ben, my son who plays basketball, he got so good at basketball, they wouldn't let him play. He couldn't play in the tournaments because
I'm sure they're like, you can't do this to these kids.
Against the other camps. Because it was been like they would have. How old is Harry?
Harry's 4 years younger, so he's 32.
4 years younger. And did you go to Hebrew school?
Yeah.
After school?
After school, 2 hours. We went and I had to go to the conservative temple because my mom really felt badly that she wasn't, my mom grew up more religious in Michigan. The temple was their, her family's social life, and that wasn't the case for my my dad wasn't like that. My dad, they were kind of like, they were nominal, Jewish. Yeah. Like, but we did all the holidays, but then he was at a so it was important to her. Conservative temple is where my dad got bar mitzvah. So like my brother and I went there, but it would also meant like after school, driving all the way to another town.
Right.
I would go in my football pads when I was in Pop Warner football, and I would leave early some days. Right. And and so I went like Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the whole deal.
And then you got, what was your did you have a huge bar mitzvah?
Yeah, the whole deal. Like, ice tables and shit, so like,
oh God.
So it's, I'm annoyingly typical, and that's something that I'm like very okay with.
Well, that's just what's so fascinating about you. and that you're a funny comic.
I appreciate
that. But you are, there's no like childhood trauma.
I mean, I've dealt with weight stuff my whole life, but like I talk about that on stage and.
Right. When were you your biggest as a child?
Oh, probably, freshman year of college, I really packed it on. But I was always a bigger guy. Like I was always uncomfortable in my body, always trying, like just Jewish houses, like everyone's trying to lose 10 pounds their whole life.
Right.
So like, that's kind of and my dad has weight issues growing up and he deals with that stuff. And like, so it's just everyone, a constant conversation.
But it's,
eating, but also wanting to be healthy. Like, it's like a weird thing.
Right. It's like, I definitely have body stuff because I'm fucking, I was 6 feet at 13. Like it was hell,
Yeah.
Did you get teased at all?
I have, but like to call it drama, like I just know, like my mom, my whole life, she would always say, "You're so sensitive. You're so sensitive." And I was like, I don't think it's sensitive. I just notice. I'm telling you, I just notice. And I'm not mad or happy about it. I'm just noticing something peculiar.
About
whatever it is. But she would always say, "You're so sensitive. You're so sensitive." I was like, I don't. And I was like, I'm just saying, she was like, "You look so much into everything." I'm like, I don't know.
Right. What about Harry? Was he ever fat?
Harry, a little bit, but no. Harry, like, he's pretty regimented. He's way more serious about things than I am. Like, I'm the lazy one. I can never not be lazy to my family. Like, I that would be my advice to my, like, former, like, if I could go in a time machine, I'd tell myself, just, like, clean your room once. Be less lazy than your brother so you wouldn't get called lazy at that wouldn't be the thing.
But were you lazy or just preoccupied with something else?
It's definitely laziness, but like I just don't care. If I don't care about something,
I'm the same way. I'm the same.
I'm not lazy about stand up, when I want something, I get it.
So do you think you're ADD?
I never was diagnosed with anything. Like annoyingly typical. Like I never had, like, I'm just very much the center of the bell curve on so many things.
All right. So you go to Penn State, which your parents must have been thrilled. No? It's a great school.
Good school. Well, it's Penn State, not Penn.
I know, it's still a good school.
Well, I'm just saying, because sometimes I can tell when someone thinks Penn State is Penn, because they go, "Whoa, very smart." And I just go, "You're right." And I just let them think that. So Penn State, my mom hated it because you couldn't fly there. They'd have to drive there. And she thought the drive was like, she hated driving with my dad there.
Right.
It was always raining there. She couldn't stand it. She really wanted me to go to Michigan where my grandfather went.
Oh, that would have been good.
I didn't get in there. My brother got in there.
Into University of Michigan?
Yes.
Such a good school. Yeah.
Such a good school. So I didn't get in there. So like my mom always had that where she was like, "I don't know why you're out there in Pennsylvania," as if Ann Arbor is just this like metropolis. Yeah. I went because it was Big Ten football. Like it's, again, going back to my generation, the idea that we went to school for the experience, the college experience. I was that person, where what are you studying? I'd be like, "I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. I want to go, drink beer and watch football." And that sounds so stupid now, but that is there's a large group of people that are a lot like me in that sense, where it's like, go for the college experience. So
I agree with that, though. I think it is a growing up thing.
It's a growing up thing.
So you go and you join a frat.
Yes.
Which frat?
Beta Theta Pi, which so it was like the WASPy fraternity. There's like the Jewish fraternity, and then there's like Beta Sig, and but Penn State has a huge Greek life. So I had camp friends that were in two different fraternities, and they kind of like brought me in to be like, "You should check this place out."
Which ones were they in? Henry was in Sammy.
So Sammy was part of like the group of
the Jews,
fun Jews, and then there was Delta Sig. That was like the other half Jewish house. And then Beta was like this known as like the pop collar house. And I, for whatever reason, I joined that one. I just enjoyed it. It was also like on campus. So it was like right by the bus stop, again, laziness. And then I liked that the group of guys, and they were very, they reminded me of my high school friends. So I was like, okay, look, let's, and again, need them, like my high school friends, Irish Catholic. That was like so like I didn't feel out of place as much as maybe someone from Newton might, that went to Newton South.
Did Harry join a frat when he went to Michigan?
So Harry went to Michigan, and he's a really good lacrosse player. So he played lacrosse, but also joined a fraternity. And at the time, the lacrosse team at Michigan was club, but they really took it seriously. And he did the club thing. They won, they never lost a game. Like they were crazy good. And then he ended up going to grad school at St. John's so he could play D1. He wanted to play D1 lacrosse. So he ended up going to grad school and moving to New York and playing there for a year. So, but he was lacrosse.
Is he the total favorite?
I don't know. I think maybe. I don't know. I think we're pretty good unit.
The comedy thing definitely. When you're successful at comedy, stand up in a Jewish household, that can.
It's interesting how that kind of worked out, because in the beginning, when I told my parents I'm going to do it, my dad saw it, again, business Jew. He's like, you want to be one of the guys on 30 Rock sitting around the table. I was like, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to knock on the door. They're going to let me in. But he was like, he saw it as an entrepreneurial endeavor, as crazy as that sounds. But I kind of explained to them, I was like, I don't know what it's going to be, but I need to kind of itch this.
I need to scratch this itch. Yeah.
Scratch this itch. And so he got it because he kind of saw that I was I'm going to treat it like a job. My mom did not get it at all. She was just like, why would you do this to yourself? And I think moms, if I can speak for moms, but maybe you can please disagree with me, but I think you want easy answers that you did a good job as a mom. I think my mom wants to just say, finance, he's okay.
But that is easy. It's but it's boring too.
It's boring.
But I'm not a normal type of.
Totally.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of Kill Me Now with one of my favorite Jews, Jared Freid. Kill Me Now is produced by Laura Vogel, edited by Colin Schmaling. This podcast would not be possible without the help and dedication and loyalty. Oh, I just screamed that, sorry. Loyalty of Brittany Jo Sowards. Now, please, I was just talking to a friend who said, oh, I've subscribed, and I'm like, did you leave a review? And she said, no. Please leave a review, because then other people find it, and then I get more advertisers, and then I can stay on longer. You know what I mean? Not have a longer podcast, but you know what I mean. So please subscribe, 5 stars. 5 stars for the review, okay? Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah is coming up, and you're gonna buy my book for everyone. Yes, you are. Oh, yes. Please buy my book for Hanukkah. If you love comedy, it's a great book, okay? So buy it and give it as a gift. Books are the best gift, okay? Also, we're doing a live Kill Me Now at the 92nd Street Y with the one and only Colin Quinn on December 2nd. So you can get your tickets for that Thursday, December 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Online or in-person tickets are available at the 92nd Street Y. It's at Buttonweiser Hall. You can go to judygold.com and get those tickets. My old friend Colin Quinn, who I can't wait to talk to. Probably not going to use the bell that much, but who knows? Who knows? Also, get your booster, get your kids vaxxed, wear a mask if you're on a plane, double mask, yell at people for not covering their fucking noses. Yeah, that's it. And go to my website, judygold.com, because I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to Aruba. There's a lot going on, and you need to come see me live. And that's it. So there you go. Would mean a lot to me if you would check everything out. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Judy Gold, JEWDYGOLD, because I'm Jewish. Yeah. Hey. And that's it. Thank you. I can't believe you're still listening to this. I love you for still listening to this. Also, I'm not enjoying the cold weather. I'm just letting you know that I'm not enjoying the cold weather. I am getting old and I like it warm. Speaking of which, I have to go eat dinner now. So thank you again so much for listening. I love all of you. Thank you for the support. Tell all your friends. And as we always say, so long.
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Just.
Just Kill Me Now.